Hello there, what is going on everyone? Today we are going to teach you how to play the Battle of Hoth, the new Star Wars game from Days of Wonder, based on the Memoir 44 style of gameplay. If you're familiar with that, you're probably already going to be familiar with this, but if not, no worries, we're going to jump right into this. Love to have you stick around. We do talk a lot about Star Wars and science fiction based tabletop gaming here on the channel. Would love to have you guys stick around. Plus, we're doing a $25 Amazon gift card giveaway. You just have to be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my other videos if you'd like to have a chance to enter to win that. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Battle of Hoth. Also, let me know what other games you want me to cover and what you hope to see next in this series. This is a 2 to 4 player game, although I'll recommend it with 2, and we're going to teach it from that perspective. And we're going to kind of go over some of the basics, but there's plenty more for you to discover. And with all that being said, let's go ahead and dive into the Battle of Hoth. So in Star Wars, the Battle of Hoth, we are going to be playing on a board similar to this. This is a double-sided board. You'll want the side that is divided into 3 sections here. If you flip this board over, you're going to see half of the extra large board, which is only a version you're going to use if you have 2 copies of the game, where you can make this a double-sized board. Each player who owns a copy of the game will provide half of the components, or if you buy 2 of them yourself, you can do that. We're not going to focus on that one. We're going to focus on this one, the basic game. We're going to have hexes here, and we're going to have units in hexes. This is a scenario-based game, so anytime you play, you're going to be playing a scenario. And the goal of the game is to score these victory medallions or victory points. Rebel or Empire, depending on which side you are playing. One player is going to play the Rebels, the other player is going to play the Empire, and we're going to open up a scenario book, and we're going to play a scenario through that. You're going to have a scenario book like so. And we're going to actually go over, we're set up for scenario number 2 in this particular setup here, which does feature an awful lot of the different units, although it doesn't have any of the Rebel turrets in this particular scenario. It does have a lot of stuff. We've got snow speeders, Rebel troopers, we've got snow troopers, we've got the Viper droids, and we also have an AT-AT, or as I like to call it, an AT-AT walker. And it is a card-based game where we're going to have a number of these different cards in our hands, and we're going to play a card, activate some units, do some moving, some shooting, and then we'll draw a card to replace the card that was gone, and then our opponent will do the same, and we'll keep going back and forth until one player wins 4 or 5 medallions. But it's really going to be, these are going to be medals that is going to be indicated by the scenario. So it might be 4, it might be 5, it may be more than that or less than that. The scenario can change victory conditions, but primarily that's how you win, and you usually do that by defeating a unit completely and earning one of these, which I can then put on the game board like so. Now, the reason the game board is divided into 3 sections is that is going to correspond to how you activate cards. For example, I'm going to have a command hand of cards, and I might play a card that is called Raid, and it will feature the left section of the board here. Now there's multiple different Raid cards. For example, I might play this version of Raid, which is going to have a 2 on the far right section. And but whichever type of card I play, I can then activate basically 2 units, but they have to be on this section of the board. I will point out that if I have, for example, a snow speeder that is on this particular hex, this is considered to be both in the left and in the center section of the board because it is in both of those sections. So that's something to point out. But when I activate a unit, I will do whatever it says on the card. In this case, it's just going to say I can activate 2 units that are on this side of the board, so I'll be able to activate them. What we'll do is we'll be able to move them, and then we'll be able to shoot with them. And if there is any extra text on the card, then we can also follow along with that. But there's different types of cards too. There's, for example, Recon and Force, which is 1 from each section. By the way, when you play one of these cards, you can do them in any order. So I could potentially move somebody in the middle first and then move somebody in the back. You cannot move through other units. And we're going to talk through our movement here in just a minute. There's also lots of different terrain types, which we'll talk about. And those can also inhibit and restrict movement. But in addition to all of these cards, there's lots of other cards that are going to have different special text on them. For example, Recon here says that when drawing a new command card, draw 2, choose 1, and discard the other. That's something you're going to do at the end of your turn. You can also play with leaders. There are going to be 3 leader cards for Luke Skywalker. If you're playing with leaders, you might choose Luke Skywalker. You're going to shuffle that into your deck. But each faction has 3 different leaders. In addition to Luke Skywalker, you could potentially choose Han Solo as an alternative, or you could choose Princess Leia Organa. And there are also going to be 3 different leaders available to the Empire. Now, the Empire's cards are going to look a little different. They're going to look like this, but they will still largely function the same. They're just going to look graphically different, and they're going to have a few things that are going to make them stand out. For example, I could run with Darth Vader as my leader, and he'll give me some powerful abilities that I can potentially run, or I could run with General Veers, Maximilian Veers. Did you know his first name was Maximilian? What about Admiral Piet, whose first name was Firmus? I bet you if you knew Maximilian, you might not have known Admiral Piet's first name. I did know General Veers' first name, but I did not know Admiral Piet's first name. So there, you learn something new every day. Now when it comes time to activate a unit, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move a unit, and if I wanted to move these troopers, for example, well, they could go ahead and move from one hex to an adjacent hex. Notice that this was an empty hex, so they had no problem moving there. And if these guys, if they move, they are also going to be able to shoot, but if they don't want to shoot, they can move 2 hexes. So if they move the 2, they're not going to be able to shoot. Alternatively, I could have maybe activated these speeders here. Now, the interesting thing is, if I wanted them to maybe go this way, they're not going to be able to move through anybody else, so they would have to go, they have a movement of 3, so they could go 1, 2, 3. They could go that way. They are going to be 3 per hex, whereas so are the Echo-based troopers here. Notice that the turret is only 1 per hex, and the turret does not get any movement. So there's that. Now, if I wanted it to go the other way, I would have to do these guys first. Maybe they move 2, and now I have room to get over that way. So that's how the movement would work, and then comes shooting after the fact. So in this setting, let's say I were to activate these troopers and only them, and then when it comes time to shoot, I wanted them to shoot these troopers up here. Well, one of the things I was going to do, I can shoot since I only moved 1 hex, which is a good thing. Now, that's a trooper specific. Now, snow troopers have the same restriction. They can move once and shoot, or move twice and not shoot. But only those troopers are the only ones that have that particular restriction, the infantry, as indicated by this little infantry symbol on the die, which we're going to get to here in a minute. Now I will want to count the number of hexes to my target. If I want to shoot these snow troopers up here, they are 1, 2 hexes away. And according to this handy-dandy chart here, I can move once and then shoot somebody who is either 1 hex away, in which case I will roll 3 dice, 2 hexes away, in which case I will roll 2 dice, or 3 hexes away, in which case I will roll only 1 die. So I might be better off firing at these probe droids that are adjacent to me, because then I'll be able to roll 3 dice. Additionally, these snow troopers are on terrain. They are on a ridge, which would offer them some additional protection, as indicated by our handy-dandy sheet here. Now, the game comes with these excellent reference cards that are going to tell us all kinds of things about the different terrain. We'll take another look at that in a second. Let's just suffice to say we decide to just attack the probe droid. So I roll my dice and take a look at the results. Now, this is going to be a miss, so that's going to go away. This would be a hit if my target were infantry. However, since they are not infantry, that will go away. If I had rolled the vehicle symbol, this would work against vehicles, which would be useful against a walker or a snowspeeder. But then we do have the blast here, which is kind of like your wild or your crit that basically will hit everything. So these probe droids are a specialty type of unit, and they are only hit by the blast, as are the defensive turrets here are also only hit by the blast symbol. So they will suffer 1 wound. Each die does remove 1 miniature. However, a unit that still has at least 1 miniature in its hex is still considered to be a full strength unit that still attacks with all of the dice eligible. So for example, if these rebel troopers were hit twice and I had 2 guys off the board, but there was 1 still there, it would still attack with all 3 dice. if I had rolled the retreat symbol, after wounds are allocated and all of the rest of the dice are done, we would take a retreat symbol and the unit must then retreat. They will have to retreat closer to their baseline, which is that direction, and they have to retreat 1 hex in that direction. Now, the controlling player can choose which, if it's a tie, so in this case, maybe they would go that way, and that would then be resolved. If they cannot retreat, then they'll take extra damage for that, and things that would prevent them from retreating might be terrain or other units in the way. Another handy reference to all of the different types of combat effects is there's going to be 2 of these, and each of these are double-sided. Now, just to summarize, infantry can be hit by the infantry symbol or the blast. There you'll have 3. This is for the rebel side. You'll have 3 per hex, and they can move 1 and then shoot up to distance 3 with 3, 2, or 1 dice, or they can move twice and not shoot, hence the slash right there. Your snow speeders move 3, and they can shoot 4 dice at somebody who's 1 hex away, or 2 dice at somebody who's 2 hexes away, and they are hit by the heavy or the vehicle symbol, or of course the blast. And then your turrets don't move, or also they don't award victory points for being killed, and they cannot retreat. They're immune to retreating, but they're only hit by the blast, and they have 4 range, and they kind of follow that infantry pattern of 4 dice if you're 1 away, 3 dice if you're 2 away, 2 dice, and then 1 dice, respectively, with only 1 model per hex. Note that the snow speeders have 3 models per hex, which was a little bit bigger than I was expecting, considering that they are kind of larger, and while they do still fit in the hex, it was a little surprising. So now for the Empire side, they're going to have 4 snow troopers per hex, so they actually have a little extra hit points, more than the rebels do. Of course, the rebels are defending and the Empire's attacking, and they're coming in with overwhelming force. They otherwise have the same stats as the rebel infantry do. They're hit by infantry and a blast, and they can attack 3, 2, and 1 distance away if they move 1, or they can move 2, like basically run and not shoot. I'm going to talk about the walker last. The probe droids, similar to the turrets here, are not going to award victory points. They're also only hit by the blast. However, they can move 2. And they can attack distance 2 and 1 and 2 with 2 dice and 1 dice respectively. So they can attack up to 2 away. So they're kind of versatile, giving you decent movement and only a light attack with only 2 probe droids per unit. Now, the Imperial Walker is definitely going to be the oddball. They have tough armor, right? But it's only 1 miniature. And one of the things that we've learned so far is every single hit that remains removes 1 model from the hex. And so how does that work with a walker having a single model only? Well, it's a very simple process. So let's say you roll 3 dice at the walker. Now, both the blasts and the heavy vehicle dice will count as hits, but every hit roll must be confirmed. And what that means is you're going to, once you've rolled all your dice, let's say you have, you rolled 3 and you have 2 left over, you will have to take those and re-roll those. And only blasts will give you a chance at a hit. And so it becomes essentially, if this were a D6, you need 5s and 6s, and then you have to re-roll those into additional 6s. So your chances of actually getting these guys are pretty slim. It's pretty slim. You have to kind of roll 2 crits back to back, or at least a 5 and a 6 rolled by another 6. So it's a little bit more tricky to hit them, hence their armor is tough. It's going to take multiple repeated shots to try to get them down. They only move 1 space, and they can attack up to 3 spaces away, but notice that regardless of the distance from the target, they're always rolling 3 dice. Now, I did say this was a scenario-based game. At the start of the game, once you're getting set up and once you've determined who's going to play what side, you'll choose a scenario from this book, and there are a great many. They do recommend you play them starting with 1 and then working your way up. So you might not play scenario number 2 as your very first scenario, but they're all numbered here at the top, and they're also going to tell you what kinds of terrain that you're going to be using, as well as how many command cards each player starts with, and what the victory conditions are going to be here as well. The rebel player will go first. This also tells you that, and this is going to show you where your different terrain tiles are going to be. So at this point, we're going to talk about the terrain tiles just a little bit. Now, before we talk about terrain tiles, I also want to talk about attacking and line of sight. You have to have line of sight even if you have range to somebody. So if we were going to attack from here to here, which would be 2 hexes away, we'd have to ensure that we had line of sight into that enemy unit. And the way you do that is you draw a line from the center of the targeting hex the hex that's attacking to the center of the hex that is defending. And if it doesn't cross anything that blocks line of sight, then you are clear to shoot. Now, there are various different things that block line of sight. For example, other units can potentially block line of sight. However, in this case, since this whole hex would be blocking line of sight, there's still a path along the line here. The line in between these is said to not be blocking line of sight. However, if there was something else on the other side, then it would. So as long as one side is clear, line of sight can go right up the middle in a case like that. However, there's other terrain that can also block line of sight. So let's say, for example, instead of attacking straight there, I was here, and then, of course, this hex in between could potentially be have line of sight blocking terrain, or other units, even friendly units. So even if I had some rebel troopers here, they would still be blocking. So you want your units that are going to be attacking to be in the basically in the front, and you want to move your units such that they're in the front that they can shoot. But line of sight, again, from the attacking hex to the defending hex, without crossing over anything that blocks line of sight, and lots of this terrain will block line of sight. So let's talk about the terrain. Now, all of these different types of hexes are double-sided, and some will have different stuff on the other side. And there's different combinations, so not every ridge, for example, will have a building or wreckage on the other side. There's a little bit of a unique combination for each one of them, so keep that in mind. Now, ridges, they are going to be line of sight blocking. Imperial walkers can't move onto these, and they also have the unique category of being able to provide protection. So that says if you're attacking an enemy unit on a ridge hex, it'll reduce the attack dice rolled by 1 unless the attacker is also on a ridge. So think of these as like a mountaintop. So they're sitting a bit above. So somebody's firing up at you and you're on top of the hill. It's an elevated position, or more like a plateau. Unless, of course, we're both on plateaus and I'm shooting at you, then you don't get the defensive benefit. And also, line of sight between 2 units on ridges is only blocked by units that are also on ridges. So, for example, if I have 3 of these, and then you're on one, and then somebody else is here, and then somebody's on the third one, if I were to do something like that, a unit here and a unit here would still be able to shoot each other unless there was also a friendly unit in the middle blocking line of sight. So just think of them as elevated. There are rocks that are also line of sight blocking. They also provide protection when you're attacking an enemy that's on rocks. Vehicles reduce the number of attack dice by 2, and all other units reduce the attack die by 1. You cannot attack on the turn you move into a rock, and also a unit that enters a rock must stop and may move no further. So they're very, very difficult to move through. So you only want to do that if you are, you really need to do it. There are the large kind of glacial seracs, which block line of sight, and they are completely impassable terrain. You cannot even fly over these things. There is wreckage and buildings. These have a lot of stuff going on. They also block line of sight. Like, as you're starting to see a trend, almost everything so far has blocked line of sight. If you move into a building or a wreckage hex, you may stop and move no further, very similar to rocks. They also provide protection when an attacking enemy unit that is on a building or wreckage hex. Vehicles reduce the number of attack dice by 2, and other units reduce the attack dice by 1. In a lot of ways, very similar to rocks. A unit may not attack on the turn it moves into a building or a wreckage hex, but a vehicle unit on buildings or wreckage hex reduce the number of attack dice they roll by 2. So slight difference with that. There are also trenches, and there's a lot of different trench things. Like, for example, like there's like different art styles for these, and you can set them up in a lot of different ways. You don't have to set them up to where they physically kind of connect like this. Like, in theory, it could be set up like this. It doesn't actually matter, but it's fun to go ahead and do that and make it look a little more thematic, so you can go ahead and do that. Now, trenches do not block line of sight. As a matter of fact, they're one of only two types of terrain that don't. They say that there's protection when you're in these. When attacking an infantry unit on a trench hex, all other units reduce the number of attack dice rolled by 1. In addition to that, infantry units here may ignore one retreat roll that is rolled against it, which is going to be these. So these guys get to, they're a little more fortified. They're less likely to get up out of the trench and run away. And then the last one is the crevice, which also does not block line of sight. This is just a big crack in the ground. The only thing that this has into it is that it's impassable terrain except for flying units. So, for example, snow speeders can still use these terrains, but everybody else cannot cross over it or land on it. So those are our different types of terrain. We also have this handy dandy sheet here. It has all of that information. Now, the really strange thing about that is this sheet is double-sided with the identical information on both sides. I don't know why they did it that way, but I guess what else would you have put on the back? I don't know, maybe a pretty picture, but either way, it's a double-sided sheet that has all of your handy-dandy information for the terrain on here. Now, once you've chosen your scenario and set up the board, it's time to start shuffling your cards and getting ready to play the first turn. Of course, the scenario is going to tell you how many cards you draw and who goes first. Note that this is not always the same, and note that some scenarios will also have specialty units like veterans and things like that, which have additional stats that are located in the back of the book. But one of the things that you're going to do is you're going to shuffle all your basic cards and then decide if you're playing with leaders or not. And if you're playing with leaders, each player will choose one leader and then shuffle those cards into their deck. I do recommend playing with leaders because you want this to feel a little bit more like Star Wars, and I think it's a really cool idea to make your games a little bit different and also to add that theme and make this stand out a little bit more from from Memoir 44, for example. And because Luke Skywalker wasn't, he wasn't in World War II, so I think it fits to go ahead and shuffle him in there. I'll also point out that cards like these are not going to be used for a standalone game, and we're not going to talk about these, but these are for the campaign. If you are playing a campaign, you'll also then pay attention to these cards. So now that I've drawn my 4 cards, the Imperial player has drawn their 4 cards as indicated by the mission. It also says that I go first, so I'll go ahead and start, and these are the 4 cards that I've got. Now I can choose something like Recon and Force, activate 1 unit in each different area. I could do 2 units right up the middle, or I could do something cool like Speed or Assault, which would let me activate 2 vehicle units, and then it has a bonus where they can move 1 additional hex after having attacked. Don't forget, you move first and then you attack afterwards. Now, I want to point out something very interesting here is that, let's say, for example, the scenario doesn't have any vehicles or doesn't have very many, and maybe I've lost my vehicles by the time I get this card. I can still use this card. For example, it says, if you do not command any vehicles, order 1 unit of your choice. However, if I use the optional replacement effect at the bottom, let's say I have only troopers that are left, and I can still activate 1 of them with this card. It's not going to get the specialty bonus of being able to move 1 hex after it attacked. It's just going to be kind of a single issue. So it's very much not effective unless I have vehicles to be able to activate with it. Now, I'll point out also, if I only have 1 vehicle, I can still just do the 1 vehicle unit and get the bonus movement, but I won't be able to then do the bottom or activate another vehicle or 1 unit of your choice. So you're going to choose like the top or the bottom with specialty cards like that. And I also have my awesome Luke Skywalker card, which gives me even more benefits, right? Only 1 guy, but he's going to be able to move an additional hex and roll an additional die. So this is really great for trying to take down a snow speeder or a snow speeder doing an attack on an Imperial walker. Getting those extra dice could be really helpful, and of course your opponent might not see this coming. If you ever run out of cards, you're then only going to shuffle and create a new deck. Once I'll play my card, let's say I'll play Recon and Force, I'm going to activate 1 unit on each side. Once I've moved all 3, then I will be able to go ahead and attack if I have any attacks. And then once I'm done, I will then put this will go in my discard pile, and I will draw one more card that will then replace its spot on my row here. So in this case, since I have one from each section, I'm going to go ahead and run with my troopers over here. 1, 2. That means they won't shoot. These guys will also run 1, 2. And actually, no, I'm sorry. These guys will go up here and they'll end up on the ridge, which of course will give them some protection. So I want to take the high point. And then I'll go with the snow speeders over here. Now they have a movement of 3. So I'll have them go 1, 2, 3. And they are 2 away from this unit over here, which means they can attack with 2 dice since they are 2 away. We'll go ahead and roll those. And look at that. We'll kill 1, and then they will also have to retreat 1 hex back to where they started. Although other Imperial player may choose to put them over here, give them more room to play around with. And so, of course, 1 damage for the infantry and then 1 retreat symbol. And that's kind of how it works. Now, if I have them pinned against the end there and I happen to roll another retreat, then they would have taken additional damage. And so I would go ahead and draw my replacement card and then pass, and then the Imperial player would then go and they would play a card and come back and hit me extra hard. And you go back and forth. Eliminating a unit will earn you 1 of these medals, and then the first player to get 4 medals wins, keeping in mind that some units, like the fancy little probe droids here, under most circumstances do not order medals. Now, some missions will have extra rules that help you gain extra medals, extra criteria, holding a certain location, or in the introductory, for example, in mission 1, the snow speed or the probe droids give you 2 medals when they are killed. So you can potentially get extra medals outside of normal killing, but that is how you do it. All right, so that is our look at the Battle of Hoth. Hopefully that gave you a good primer on how to play. If you have more questions, of course, you can consult the rulebook, but you can also drop them in the comments section below. Plus, I'm going to have links in the video description where you can join our Discord, other social media channels, and also, if you're interested, you can join the team on Patreon and help continue to make this channel an amazing success. We've also got some thumbnails that didn't quite make the cut going up on Patreon as well. You guys can vote for your favorites. But that's going to do it. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Big thanks to all of my patrons. You guys help make this whole channel possible. I will talk to you later. May the force be with you. Live long and prosper. Be excellent to each other. Party on, dudes. So say we all. You can't take the sky from me. And always wash your socks.